one fight away from going to the finale.
All right. And then we look straight the lens.
It's crazy. This is the craziest one ever. Leave.
At the time, with my age and inexperience and immaturity, really it was just too much to handle, to be honest. Anthony Sharkbait Gutierrez. I train out of Glory Mixed Martial Arts and Fitness. I have a professional MMA record of 12-3.
So what kind of upbringing did you have, Anthony?
A great upbringing. I grew up in Lee Summit, Missouri, which is actually where we're at right now. So I've lived here my whole life. Went to Lee Summit West High School right down the road, but just a great community in Lee Summit. If anybody knows anything about the Kansas City area, it's just one of those suburbs that not a lot of crime or crazy things go on, but so a great place. Buddy, we were in his room and he was showing me these DVDs, and I thought they were pro wrestling DVDs, but they were Pride DVDs from like 2003 and 4, I think. And so we're watching these fights, and my mind's blown, like wondering if this is real, is this fake? And eventually I found out it was real. Didn't think anything of it, but just thought, holy cow, that's crazy. And then I was at my local fitness gym and stumbled across a jiu-jitsu gym, and that's actually where I met James Krause. That was right before I turned 16 years old, and that's where I first discovered jiu-jitsu. I just saw a bunch of dudes grabbing each other and throwing each other on the floor, and I thought, dang, that looks pretty crazy. Which at the time, I was actually in a really unique situation because I had played football and basketball my whole life, somewhat competitively, but once I was hitting that 15, 16-year-old age and being at the Lee Summit West High School, there was a different caliber of athletes as far as playing football and basketball, Division I and things like that. So I kind of saw my athletic career plateauing a little bit at a young age there, and I think that's what drew me to MMA was just something new to be competitive with, and so that's when I popped into that jiu-jitsu class. I learned the triangle choke and started triangle choking folks, and the next thing you know, here we are. We're almost 15 years later, which I'm 29, so half my life now doing jiu-jitsu. It's pretty crazy, and that's pretty much how I got into it. Right around when I started doing jiu-jitsu and I started hitting people with the triangle, at our local gym, I never really thought much about fighting, but I always thought MMA was crazy. Well, there was this really hot circuit at the time called there were fights at the Whiskey Tango, which is like a local nightclub, and it was pretty legendary back in like 2006, 7, and 8, and 9, and they had a good run there. But there were guys that were training at our jiu-jitsu gym and also fighting on those fights. Well, I looked up to those guys that were fighting those fights as, kind of larger than life, because here I am 16 and whatnot, and they're getting in the cage and fighting. Well, I started hitting them with submissions in the gym and stuff like that. So I started thinking to myself, like, well, wait, you guys are out here getting all this local fame at the time, which felt like a big deal. Looking back on it's kind of funny, but I thought, wow, I want to go do that. If I can beat these guys in the gym, then I can, go out there and do it. So it just started with the baby step there, and ended up fighting when I was 18, still in high school, and I ended up fighting 20 amateur fights. And this old school, we're talking Mark Cuban HD net days, where you've got the old school Joe Kelly throwing shows at Memorial Hall. I think the first big deal, the big cable deal, was HD net, and Joe had started Titan, I want to say back in 2009, where I don't know if that was James's pro debut, but I think his pro debut was on Titan FC 1 through 4 or something like that, and that was at a local casino called the Ameristar, but that wasn't on cable TV. But anyway, I debuted on Titan 16 as a professional, and that's when they had gotten the HD net deal. So I was lucky to kind of have the local timing of being able to fight on that network, because Titan started as a local Kansas City promotion by a guy named Joe Kelly. It eventually got bought by Jeff Aronson and Lex McMahon, but yeah, so it started here, so I was lucky to jump on that.
So your run on Tough, was there some like controversy? I don't really remember.
Yeah, a botched weight cut.
So why don't you so what was your experience like on Tough, and kind of pretend like no one knows.
Yeah,
and just kind of walk us through it.
I could walk you through, if you've never seen the show, how it's set up is...
We've seen the show, how about that?
Okay, so it's aired over a 13-week period, but it's filmed in a 6-week period, or at least at the time I was on the show. So you're up against 3 weight cuts in 6 weeks, which obviously the majority of the people successfully pull off. But if you're fluctuating that, 17 to 18 pounds up and down, I ended up missing it on the 3rd time, hitting it the first 2 times properly. And obviously that's like completely botched, and I jacked that up. All you can do is blame yourself, but it's one of the most difficult tournaments in the world, and one of the most difficult situations to have to live with the people that you're fighting, but you don't know when you're going to fight them. So, if there's a fight going on tonight, whoever wins that dictates who's going to fight next. So you don't know when you have to drop the weight. And at the time, with my age and inexperience and immaturity, really it was just too much to handle, to be honest. And so with all those variables, and then being, I think I was 22 or 23 or whatever, boom, you miss weight. And then it's funny because you get labeled as the weight cut guy, like for the majority of your career, when I've only missed weight once, and it was in that scenario. I have tens of friends that miss weight with 12-week camps, and they don't, you won't get that label for the lifetime. So it's a really unique situation, but that's what happened on Tough. I've been pro wrestling for going on 4 years now, almost. At the time when I got into pro wrestling, I was 7-3 as a pro in MMA, and I was coming off a loss, and I started to get this bug for pro wrestling, so I was just dabbling around in it, and a local company was magically getting set up, and they were putting big money into it, and so I was able to start training there and get onto a full-time wrestling circuit. And my character was a mixed martial artist. Well, coming off a loss and being 7-3 as a pro, isn't that, it could be a lot better if you're on a, let's say 12-3. It looks a lot better on a win streak, on the UFC's radar, that kind of mixed martial arts career. If you have a very reputable and serious mixed martial arts career, my professional wrestling character just amplifies. So my mission at that time was just a whole new motivation of, let's build a mixed martial arts brand that's, applicable for the highest level at any time, and, go on a long win streak, and then dive into pro wrestling as deep as possible and take it as far as I can go. And so here we are, like 4 years into that, and I've been able to string along a good win streak since then. Fight because I'm good at it. I fight because it elevates my professional wrestling career. I fight because it's, how I make a living as far as teaching goes. And so, that's pretty much it. Last August, I got signed to an indie company called Evolve Professional Wrestling, which they correlate with NXT. Nice. In the WWE's developmental program. So I've been fortunate enough the last year to be wrestling with the NXT roster, having WWE producers at my matches and things like that. So it's been a really great opportunity to showcase my unique style of being barefoot, no knee pads, doing more of a mixed martial arts, blending a high flying style, and being able to do it on the stage with the people who are at the place I want to be. So I'm in a good spot.